Pokémon Red and Blue, the apple of Gen 1ers' eyes, and the start of the highest grossing media franchise ever. But is it as good as all the 90s kids say it was? Well, I'm here to not only answer that question, but to give the answer to where each Pokémon game objectively ranks. Over the course of what will probably be months, I will play through each Pokémon game individually, so I can form fair critiques on them. To grade each of these games, I will be using this point system. Each category is what I consider to be the most important aspects of what makes a good Pokémon game. The category with the most amount of total points to gain is the most important, while the category with the least amount of total points to gain is the least important. The most amount of points a game can possibly get is 500, while the least is of course 0. Now that we've discussed how I'll be grading every installment in the mainline Pokémon series, let's start off by grading the very first ones, Pokémon Red and Pokémon Blue. But before I grade the game, I have to play it. To start off my journey, I picked Charmander, since I usually pick Squirtle and wanted something new for this adventure. I named my Charmander Molester, and with him, I beat my rival, Uterus. Facing Brock was tough, but all I really needed to do to win was overlevel my Charmander. In Mount Moon, I picked up a Paris, and named him Parasitax. With Parasitax by my side, I beat Misty. North from Cerulean, I caught an Abra and named it Popeyes because I thought the Abra sprite looked like Terios from Popeyes. I went down to Vermilion, and after screwing with trash cans for 30 minutes, defeated Lieutenant Surge, and fought trainers aboard the SS Anne. After this, I made my way through Rock Tunnel, passed by Lavender Town, and then went into Celadon City where I swept through both the Rocket Hideout and Erica's Gym. Then I got a drink for the guard blocking Saffron City, and went in to fight the fighting gym to get my Hitmonchan, who I named GG Easy. With 4 members on my team, I defeated Team Rocket and Silpho and Sabrina with Parasitax. After that, I beat Team Rocket once more in Lavender Town. After picking up the Pokéflute, I moved the Snorlax out of the way on Route 12 and went into Fuchsia City where I would pick up my Rhyhorn named Oko in the Safari Zone and defeat the Poison Gym leader Koga. When I got Surf, I caught a Tentacool named Glumbus and made him a team member and my honorary Surfmon. After struggling in Seafoam Islands, I finally got to Cinnabar Island, where I spent another hour or so trying to get through the Pokemon Mansion. Finally, I faced the 7th gym leader Blaine, and destroyed him with the help of Glumbus. Then I went up to Viridian to face Giovanni one last time and earn my final gym badge. Giovanni proved to not be a challenge like most of the other gym leaders, and I was on my way to the Elite Four. Before I could get to Victory Road, however, Uterus tried to stop me, but once again failed. Finally, I was at the Elite Four, so here's a summary of how all the battles went. Lorelei was difficult because a lot of ice types in this game are also water types, making my Charizard practically useless. Bruno was a breeze due to my Kadabra. Agatha was easy, since my Rhyhorn and Kadabra deal with poison types easily. Lance was tough, but I beat him using his shitty AI. Finally, using the power of Gen 1 keys, I used Kadabra, not even Alakazam, to do ridiculous damage against Uterus and defeat him. The journey was finally at a close, as Professor Oak entered me into the Hall of Fame. And now that I've played through Pokémon Blue in its entirety, let's see how good it really is. The gameplay is what we've come to expect from Pokemon over the years. You catch Pokemon, you fight with other Pokemon, and you explore the Kanto region. Although the glitches are abundant, the basics of Pokemon battling are still there. And the battling aspect of Pokemon is the reason most people play. Even if you know nothing about special defense and physical attacks and setting up a swords dance on your most powerful attacker, you can still defeat most trainers if you have the most powerful move. There's a style for everyone, but generally the more strategic players are rewarded. In Pokemon Red and Blue, however, glitches and coding errors hold the competitive aspect of this game back tremendously. Psychic Pokemon dominate the game, and crits are way too abundant due to them being based on speed for some reason. This makes people who use status effect and stat boost moves get less rewarded than those who just use Mewtwo to defeat everything in its path besides bug types. My Kadabra carried me through the Elite Four and Champion, and it wasn't even fully evolved. So, fighting Pokemon is sorta broken. But what about catching them? Well, random encounters have been the main way to get Pokemon for 7 generations, and holy shit, they can be annoying in certain areas of the game. When you're on routes, typically you have a way to avoid running into Pokemon every 10 seconds by walking outside the tall grass. But when you're in caves or other inside areas, the only way to avoid a constant ass rape of Zubats and Coughings is to get a repel. This just makes the game more tedious and annoying, and slows the game down tenfold when in these areas. Speaking of ways this game is slow, the biggest issue with the main story of this game, by far, is the speed of your character. Up until Vermilion City, the only way to get around is to walk 1 plank a second using your character's feet, and when you're grinding or trying to get through a route, and have to go all the way back to the Pokemon Center to heal up, and then all the way back to where you were, the speed of the game feels like it'll take an eternity to finish. I can't take too much off for this though, because once you get the bicycle, you can go pretty fast through most environments. Half the gyms in Kanto don't have puzzles, which would be fine if the ones that did have puzzles were actually good puzzles, instead of bullshit like invisible mazes and Lieutenant Surge's trash can switches. The puzzles in areas besides gyms, such as Team Rocket's hideout, can be fun if you don't get stuck because a piece of dialogue was missed, like I did several times. But the puzzles using HMs brings up a whole other problem. HMs take up a move slot on your Pokemon, meaning you either have to waste a slot on your team on an HM slave, or waste a move slot on a main team member. But on top of that, they're used by opening up the Pokemon menu, which takes an extra few seconds over just clicking on the tree that needs to be cut or the boulder that needs to be moved. The last thing about Red and Blue is that it is slightly more open world than other installments, but because of this, the leveling sucks ass. For example, the time between Blaine's gym and the Elite Four is relatively short, with not a lot to do in between. Blaine's top Pokemon is level 47, while Blue's is 65. This makes the game escalate in difficulty very rapidly, and simply isn't balanced too well. Overall though, I did end up having fun in some parts of the game, and I was immersed with the connection to my Pokemon. So, for this, I'm giving Pokemon Blue a 45 out of 100, just below average. The Generation 1 Pokemon are iconic to many, and used by Game Freak any chance they get. So this must mean they're all flawless, and I should give this category the maximum points, right? Absolutely not. About half of these Pokemon are literally just animals you can find outside. This is literally just a bird. This is a butterfly. And this is fucking Seal. And yet 2 of the 3 Pokemon I just listed are fan favorites, and almost in every player's team. Now, to be fair, they were still testing the waters of what fantastical creatures they could and couldn't get away with back then. And there are certain Pokemon with interesting designs that still stand out today. But this does not excuse about half the Pokédex being boring, and for that, I'm giving this category a 50 out of 90. There's not much to say here since this is the first Pokemon game. If we're being technical though, the new edition was the entire Pokemon series. But some of the trends introduced I don't like too much, so I have to count off some points. A solid 70 out of 80 here though. An RPG, by definition, is a role-playing game. And the role you play in Pokemon Red and Blue is that you are a 10-year-old kid sent on a journey to complete the Pokédex, defeat all the gyms and Elite Four, and incidentally, destroy the Mafia along the way. For the Pokemon series, the story is basic, but for other role-playing games in the genre, the world of Pokemon is exciting and unique. Most of the characters added are memorable and good enough, and I did feel like I was on a journey at points. So I give this game a 40 out of 70 on story. Good for the world it creates, but not interesting when compared to other stories in RPG games. The Kanto region offers a good enough variety of environments to catch Pokemon in, from the southern coast to a city in the center and the caves scattered all about. Most of the places in Kanto are pretty memorable to all. The map doesn't feel too large or too small, but once again, when compared to future games with giant underwater landscapes, steep mountains difficult to traverse, and unique evil team hideouts, Kanto falls short. So I have to give Pokemon Red and Blue a 45 out of 60 in regards to its region. Holy shit, the music from this game is good, and used in almost every video about Pokemon you'll see. The battle music, the opening theme, and Blue's final battle are all memorable classics for a reason. The only problem with the soundtrack is that the Game Boy makes it sound like a fork in the garbage disposal at times. But those times are rare, so I give the music an almost perfect score of 45 out of 50. One thing that I have to mention about Pokemon Red and Blue is the impressive technical feat this game was at the time. I have to hand it to Game Freak. They put the Game Boy memory to the test and put as much into a single cartridge as they could, and despite not being able to find the price of Pokemon Blue when it was released, seeing that it's sold now for $10 on the 3DS eShop, I'd say that's fair for what you're getting. The graphics often leave more to be desired, but gameplay can mostly make up for shitty graphics if it's good enough. Lastly, I have to note, Pokemon Yellow. It doesn't change too much besides improvements to sprites, colored graphics, the ability to get all its starters, and other small details that make it more like the Pokemon anime. So I can't really give this category too many more points because of Pokemon Yellow's improvements, because it's kind of its own thing, and I consider it another option of how to play Gen 1 rather than a complete replacement. With all those things in mind, I give the other category a 35 out of 50. Adding all of Pokemon Red and Blue's points up gives it a total of 325 out of 500, or a 65% if we were grading this like a test. For the first installment in the Pokemon series, it does a lot right, but at the same time, it leaves a lot more to be desired in pretty much every aspect of what makes a good Pokemon game good, besides music. This means that the only place to go for the series from here is up, right? Well, I'll be the judge of that when I review Pokemon Gold and Silver in the next installment of my Pokemon retrospective thing. Whatever.